Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. Our featured guest today is Elena Muratova. So, Elena is an Olympian fitness expert and healthy lifestyle coach. She spent almost 25 years in professional sport, taking podiums at the Europe Cup and World Cup competitions and mogul skiing. The pinnacle of Elena's athletic career was the participation in the Olympic Games 2014. The same year, Elena retired from professional sport, moved from Russia to Canada, and started a new career. Today, she helps people to overcome mobility issues, develop and maintain healthy habits, and enjoy life. Elena has a master's degree in physical education and sport. She is also a best-selling author and psychology student. So I love it. I love it. Love it. Thank you, Elena, for joining us. And it is 4:30 where you are at.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
I love it. And so she was like, I'm not sure whether I'm going to join you this morning. And I was like, well, and she said, well, it'll be 4:45. I said, well, it's just a few minutes earlier.
Exactly.
So now, how did you develop the love of skiing?
Oh, to be honest, I grew up in a sport family, so both my parents are coaches. So my dad was and still is a coach in downhill skiing, and my mom is a coach in figure skating. So I have the joke that I only had two choices in my childhood: figure skating or downhill skiing.
Gotcha.
So yeah, my mom didn't want to be a coach for her daughters, and my dad said like, yeah, cool, I will. And yeah, I started to ski when I was around like 3 years old. So to be honest, I don't remember myself without being able to ski. It's like, yeah, it's always been here with me, this ability. And I always enjoyed it. It gave me so much fun in my childhood. It wasn't excessive training at that time, but it gave me opportunity to travel around province in Russia where I grew up, around the country, and even visit other countries. For the first time, for example, I visited another country when I was 10 years old, and at that time in Russia it was like, wow, it's huge, great. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And it gave me some sense of control, of course, as well, because I was able to use my body and achieve some results.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, you said that your father was your coach. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how was that growing up in the house with your father as your coach?
Yeah, was not very easy. Yeah, just because he did have problems in separating these two roles of being a dad and a coach. So he mostly was a coach for me. So kind of imagine being in a training and he was mad at me for something, for doing something wrong, and he then brought these issues home. Like I couldn't come home and say, "Oh, Daddy, my coach is angry at me," because
He was your coach.
he was still angry. Yeah, exactly. And he was, most strict with me than with other kids, of course, just because I was his own kid, and he was allowed to be more, angry or whatever, express himself a little bit more. Of course, I need to give some credit for that, just because it gave me some advantages over other athletes, because I trained more, harder, and I achieved more results too. So yeah, but it wasn't easy.
Gotcha. Now, how did your mother fit in there? Like, how did she feel about it all?
Yeah, she felt pretty good. Like as I said, she just wanted to be a mom for her daughters. I have a younger sister, so she supported me and my sister in what we were doing, and my dad. She was happy we were involved in some great activity. We were training. We were not spending a lot of time watching TV, or doing some other crazy like unhealthy stuff, for example. Yeah. So yeah, she was very supportive in that.
Now, your father was alcoholic. Now, how did this affect your coach athlete relationship with each other?
Yeah, it made me made me even more harder. Yeah, he didn't drink. He didn't drink a lot, but pretty often, and it definitely affected my state of calmness. I always was worried because it was such a difficult experience to see him drunk, especially when sometimes he was at the training sessions, or like after, not at the training session by themselves, but after, when his students still could see him as well. So like I always feel ashamed, and then I was worried if he would come home, if I had all this bad like vision, imagination in my head, what would happen, like maybe he would be hit by a car or whatever. I just was constantly worried about him, and of course it's created a lot of instability in our household as well, because they had fights with my mom. And yeah, I was like, in this case, on one hand, he was my coach and he was a big authority for me. On another hand, I saw him in that very unpredictable state, and I had to be an adult at some level as well, kind of over caring for him.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Now, you injured your right knee. Okay.
Mm.
So now tell us what happened and why, what did this mean for your skiing and how did you handle the news?
Yeah, it was devastating news for me at that time. So I was skiing for many years. I did downhill skiing and then switched to mogul skiing, which is um, more challenging in terms of injury. So it's when I ski down bumps and also jump a few times on my way down.
So that's what mogul skiing is
Mogul skiing, yeah, exactly.
because when
Like,
you said mogul skiing, I was like, what is she talking about?
yeah,
So it's where you
yeah.
do it's where you do jumps.
Yeah, I ski down the bumps, and
Okay.
then there are two jumps on the way when athletes usually do like 360 turn or back flips, front flips, jump, whatever. Yeah, this crazy stuff.
Gotcha.
So, and I started do it since I was a teenager, like high school, a little bit more professionally. And then I was able to get into the national team, kind of my career progressed from there, and I started to go to the international competitions all over the world. So it was great. And I was preparing to Olympic Games 2010 in Vancouver, in Canada. And participating in the Olympic Games always, of course, was my dream. Like I dreamt about that since childhood. And yeah, during one of the competitions that Olympic season, I just landed poorly after one of the jumps and crashed my right knee, crashed my ligaments in right knee. And yeah, it was awful. Like I was lying on the snow, and all my like future was gone in my understanding that time. Like it was just after being excited and having this hope going to Olympics, I just instead was lying on the snow with like huge pain in my knee, and then in the hospital and having surgery and long recovery. Yeah, so it took me around 1 year to be able to compete again, like this recovery time. Yeah, and then I injured my left knee. So yeah,
Yeah,
it
you
was
said
so
that you went from injuring your right knee because you favored your right knee, and so then you injured your left knee.
yeah, not as bad, but I still had to overgo the surgery. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So now you went into another career. Now, what was that career, and how did you feel when you were doing this job? Like you went from this career of skiing, and you went into another career before you went to the Olympics. What was that?
Yeah, so after having my second surgery and kind of recovering, I just thought maybe it was time to try something else, and I went to be a manager of a national team, just working in an office with all these documents in front of computer. And it was exciting and fun in the beginning because everything was new. But after a few months, I started to understand that, oh, it's probably not for me. Yeah, I just something I didn't like. And it was hard to adjust to new lifestyle, to all those changes. So I just couldn't resist coming back to sports, especially Russia hired Canadian coaches at that time to train the team. So I was like, oh wow, I really want to try training with Canadian coaches because it seemed so different, and it was different. So I just decided to jump in and fortunately was able to get into that team again and prepare to Olympic Games in Sochi 2014.
So now, how was it different from the Russian coaches to the Canadian coaches?
Yeah, just mindset was different. For example, one thing I can share, we did a lot of trampoline training, of course, prepare learning our jumps. And when I went to trampoline, Russian coach could say like, oh, now you're going to do these jumps that you struggle with and you hate that. Like we are going to work on that. I was like, oh, okay. And Canadian coaches had like different approach. He would say like, okay, now we do this jump. I know it was hard for you like before, but you're great. Like you're able to do it. We start slowly, kind of a little bit different approach. And it, I felt in so many areas, and just in general, how the planes are training, and
More of a positive mindset type of approach.
More positive mindset, and more structured, and I guess a little bit more experience and knowledge in what they were doing as well. Yeah.
Gotcha. So now you went back into the sport and you went to the Olympics. Now tell us about the day that you found out that you made the cut for the Olympics.
Oh yeah, it was so stressful to wait that. I just was extremely happy. Like as I shared already that I couldn't make it for 2010 because of my injuries, and after all these recoveries and having 2 injuries, I was like on the edge, like okay, can I make it? And then when I was selected, and of course as an athlete, we not only should be selected by our national committee, but we also need to be in a good standing in a world in general, over the like past few seasons, to be able to participate in Olympic Games as well. So I was like, okay, I did all this. I proved myself, and it was like I just was so excited, and I of course called my parents, and it was a joy, so much joy.
I love it. I love it. So now you finally decided to retire after the Olympics. I mean, you done reached the pinnacle, right? You done went up. So you finally decided to retire, but you said it was scary. Why was it so scary, and how did you navigate these feelings?
After Sochi 2014, I realized that it's maybe enough for my body. It was hard to train, and I didn't want to commit to another 4-year Olympic cycle and preparing to another Olympics. And at the time, I also met my husband, so I wanted to build a family, to spend time with him, and just explore something else beyond sport, because I knew that I couldn't do sport forever. So I can postpone the decision, but anyway, I would have to do it at some point in my life. And the longer I postpone, the harder it becomes to adjust to a different lifestyle. I just decided to give it a try, but I was scary because sport was my whole life. It was something I knew perfectly how to do. I knew how that system worked. I knew what specific daily actions were required from me to be able to achieve results. And I had coaches, like I had 4 coaches who guided me in that process. And then when I retired, I felt like, okay, now nobody tells me what to do exactly. Nobody plans my day and my year. I don't have the support at all. And sport also was a big part of my identity. Like me being an athlete, it was like, okay, it's me, Elena, I'm an athlete, and I totally lost in touch with whom I was without that. Like okay. So it was a lot of losses in this perspective. And also I lost some meaning. Like now I always had this dream of being an Olympic athlete, and now, okay, I achieved that, but what is next? Like, what now? So yeah, it was kind of combination of all these things that were happening that were pretty scary. And it's usually scary to start something new, especially when you were so good at something you were doing before for many years, and now you need to kind of shift gears suddenly and do something different.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that that's, very similar into the ways that, nurses are, whenever
Mhm.
they roll out of the profession, like they're not in the hospital any longer, and understanding the whole who you are. That is huge because you identify as a nurse, you
Mhm.
identify as a mom, you identify as a wife, but who are you outside of all those roles? Because those are roles
Definitely,
is
yeah.
who you are, right?
Yeah.
So I love how you did that. Now, you suffer from alopecia. Now,
Yeah, as you can see.
describe the moment when you cut all your hair off.
Yeah, I guess it was 2016. So I had this alopecia. It's a disease that affects my hair, such as forces my hair to fall out just on my head. Um, and I had it from when I was a teenager, but it's never been so huge. But it's really started to progress in 2013, I guess, from all the stress from preparing to the Olympics and then moving to another country and got married and all this stuff. Yeah, so at some point, I just realized I was not able to hide my bald spots after the hair I had left. So I had kind of two choices to shave my hair and be like that in the world, or just to start wearing wigs and hide my bald spots. So like I tried hiding them a little bit, but it didn't feel comfortable. Yeah, it like created even more stress in my life because I wasn't able to be myself or who I am, and I wasn't able to accept myself even. It's like, okay, it's who I am right now, bald person. Uh, and yeah, one day I just came home and my husband, of course, who knew about all this, my struggles, emotional struggles, was holding a shaving machine and said, okay, it's time. I was like, oh, really? Now? Right now? Maybe let's wait one more day. No, 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 sit down. So I sat down in front of, in the bathroom in front of the mirror, closed my eyes, and he started shaving my hair. And I was so terrified, and then all those like sounds of shaving machines stopped, and I was so freaking afraid of opening my eyes, and of course I couldn't sit in that position for my entire life. So at some point I was like, okay. I opened my eyes and was quite surprised actually that it wasn't so bad.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, wow, it's strange, it's weird. I don't know this person very well, like in this appearance, but I think I can get used to her. And it was scary to go outside for the first time. I thought everybody would point fingers at me, but nobody did. So I was like, oh, really? Nobody pays attention? It's a little bit upsetting even.
You are funny. But this is the thing though. You had super long hair. Like you had beautiful hair because I
Yeah,
remember the picture.
yeah,
And so
thank
I
you.
can imagine that that was a scary moment. But I think that one of the things that you said that you were fearful of opening your eyes, but it is on the other side of fear it's your biggest revelation. You know what I'm saying? And so it was just, I can imagine that was great. And you rocking the ball head. I say that. I told you
Thank you.
before. It's like you are rocking the ball head. So you are good. So I love it. Now tell us about a book that has impacted your life and why was it so impactful?
The book. Yeah, I guess you could choose. Um, so it's a book called Man's in Search for Meaning, um, written by Viktor Frankl. great book I read in Russian many years ago. And yeah, it made a huge change for me in my life, I guess. So he's an Austrian psychologist who started to write that book in the being in the Nazi concentration camp during the Second World War, after losing big part of his family. And I was really touched by the topics that he discussed. Like he discussed meaning and freedom and choices we do. And he said that we always have a freedom to choose in any like awful situation. Like he was in the Nazi concentration camp, and he saw many people who were able to do, were able to choose something for them. And one thing that touched me a lot is that in any situation, we can at least choose our attitude. Like nobody can choose how we relate to things. Nobody can take it from us, this choice. So I was like, wow, it's really huge. And it sounded really great for me. And I guess later it was very helpful during my injuries and all the stuff that, yeah, of course it was devastated in the beginning, but then I was always kept this message in mind that, okay, like I can change the situation, I can do nothing, or I can try and make changes, but if it's not possible, I still can choose my attitude, how I relate. Like I can be upset, devastated for like, my whole life about that injury, about my alopecia, about some other events, or I can choose to relate differently. I can, like, okay, now, what I can learn from that, how can I just overcome that? And just even choosing a different attitude can be a huge source of power and control in this situation when we have no control.
Mm-hmm. I tell, which this is the it's a very similar concept that I heard from John Maxwell's book
Mm.
and the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And he talks about life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And, and in the Bible, it talks about, a soft answer turns away wrath, right? And so a lot of times what happens is we want to come back and we want to claw somebody who gets at us, right? But the reality is that does nothing. The reality is that you're going to carry around how you respond to anything. So I love, love, love what you just said.
Yeah.
Now, what career path have you chosen now?
Yeah, after retiring from sports, I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was so focused on my career. But I knew that I loved training and coach people, so I decided to become a personal trainer and a healthy lifestyle coach, and that's what I did. Of course, the business part was totally different from training and coaching, and I guess a lot of your listeners and viewers can relate to that because when we start business, it's a different process and it takes time to learn. But I really enjoyed it. So I gradually started to promote, market myself, and found clients. And I really love what I'm doing. So right now I'm focusing on helping people with mobility issues. So it can be due to injury or disease or just lifestyle choices. Helping them through exercising and emotional support, changing mindset, kind of being this coach for them who can just hold their hands in that journey so they are not alone there and they know what they are doing and how to succeed in overcoming mobility issue and all this like emotional challenges that connected to that. And just in general, changing habits can be so hard. And to do it alone, it's maybe overwhelming. So helping people in that, navigating how to be present, mindful, and do these good choices in their life. So what I do right now.
I love it. Now, where can the audience find you?
I'm on a social media, Facebook, YouTube. I have channel as well, Elena Muratova, and my website, of course, happybodycenter.com. And if anybody wants to learn more about me, about my story, here is my book. So you can always find it on Amazon as well. Just Google Elena Muratova. Yeah,
I
that's,
love it.
and I offer a free consultation as well. So if anybody interested in talking to me and getting some practical tips, you are welcome.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Elena. This is pretty interesting. You normally we have healthcare professionals here, but it is very interesting to talk to an Olympian because there's the hard truths about Olympia. The Olympics, right? And
Mm-hmm.
understanding how what you have to do, right, in order to get through that process. And
Yeah.
sometimes, when you get injured as you did. So thank you for being here today. Now, we will be starting another cohort of VP Nursing Business Academy in October. It is a 6-month comprehensive program that leads nurses and coaches to working from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. If this interests you, we can jump on a call so that you're able to gain clarity on how to create multiple streams of income. You can sign up at V as in Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com. I ask that you like and share this podcast. And just know that Morning Infusion with Dr. V is where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders such as Elena that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. You guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.